Everyone dreams of having a viral video on YouTube, but what if I told you that chasing virality can actually hurt your channel? We're going to reveal the hidden truth about viral videos and why you might want to rethink your strategy for YouTube success.
Hey, welcome to the Video Creators Podcast presented by vidIQ. You know how you put a lot of time and energy into your YouTube channel for not nearly enough growth? Yep, we get it. We are here today to help you change that.
Hello, creators. How are you guys? It's great to see you here for another Video Creators Podcast episode brought to you by vidIQ like we do every Monday. We're just hanging out, sharing more advanced growth tips and tactics, next level strategy, how to grow your business, helping you reach more people and change their lives. Today, I'm hanging out with Sam and Blake, two of the YouTube strategists here on the team. Guys, I have some news and I'm a little
Spill the beans. Let's hear it.
I'm a little afraid to tell the audience. Oh gosh, my palms are getting sweaty. I'm actually a little
This is a safe space.
It's a safe space. I have gone to the dark side. I'm not happy about it, but I jumped after many decades on a PC and bought a Mac.
Wow.
One of us.
Yep.
One of us.
Somewhere Tim is like, what's going on?
Yeah, Tim's like, there's been a disturbance. What?
What a disturbance in the force. In the force. I have to say, I'm not really liking the experience so far, and I don't really get it. So maybe it's just because, like, for me, everything is backwards. And I could really use some tips for anybody who has made this transition. So if you're watching on YouTube, please leave me a comment and give me your best tip for sure.
We'll create a support group. It'll be okay.
There we go. All right. That helps. That helps.
Every week, we love to highlight a creator we work with here at Video Creators. And this week, I sat down with Christopher Chance, who has a channel called Made by Chance. And here's a bit of our conversation together.
My channel is Made by Chance. And basically, we're a channel, kind of a how-to channel, doing some DIY around the house, some emphasis on woodworking. The real goal at the time, I was all through college, I was doing a whole bunch of community service. And then once I got out of college, we bought our first house, working full time. I wasn't doing as much community service, but I kind of felt like this need to want to give back and do something to help other people. And since we had so many projects around the house, I didn't have a lot of time to do that after work. So it was kind of a decision of like, what do I want to focus on? And that epiphany of, maybe I can put some stuff on YouTube. I was like, well, I could probably impact some other people and help people along the way with their own projects, give them the motivation to go and tackle those things they've been sitting on for a while. I just started. I had no plan. I didn't know how to attack doing a proper video or how to go after a certain audience or anything like that. And so at first it was like, okay, I just want to get to 1,000 subscribers. That's my goal. And if I'm doing that, or if I get there, that means my content must be decent. And then along the way, I realized it's not as easy to get to 1,000 subscribers as I thought. So that's part of the reasons jumped in Video Labs.
I guess in terms of that idea too, like what are some struggles you kind of ran into on the journey of your channel?
Obviously, like I was saying in the beginning, I had no idea what I was doing. I just started, so I had no idea about video creating, how to video edit or anything. So that was a huge learning curve. I remember easy 40, 50 hours to edit like a 4-minute video. Just the struggle was so bad. But but once I got past that, it was really just kind of the time management part. And that's what I've still been struggling with the most. Full-time job that's more than a 40-hour work week. Got a 1-year-old now. So just a lot of things going on outside of being able to do a woodworking project, film it, edit it, and all that.
Right. I guess in terms of trying to balance work life, like YouTube life, work life, family life, what are some things you found that it's helped kind of alleviate that? Or do you have any tips that you might give? Or
so one of them is really just kind of been schedule. I'm an early person. My wife isn't so much, and our child isn't either. So what I've been doing a lot is waking up at 5, 6 a.m., start on my video editing, stuff like that. And then after our 1-year-old goes down for sleep, go out to the shop, do the projects. And that's kind of how I'm managing my time, is in the very late evening and early morning. But then outside of that is just kind of the recent epiphanies is I don't necessarily have to chase after a video a week like I'm seeing other people do. I could do a video a month is fine. If I'm delivering it the right way and it's high quality, I don't need to have that high frequency. And so that's kind of alleviated some of the pressure that was stressing me out along the way.
Now working with us for video creators for a little bit, what are some of the kind of the key takeaways you've had, working with us?
I think one of my biggest takeaways has been just the strategy or I guess the systematic process to develop stories. And actually, I thought I was telling a story, but I didn't really have any strategy behind it. I didn't know what went into a story, like all the parts. I thought I knew what it was, but there's truly like a formula to make a good story. And if you can kind of just follow that, like it feels right in the end once you've done it and you see all those things in place. It's like, oh, wow, that felt really good. Whereas before, I throw it together and I was like, yeah, I like this video. I think it's going to do great. And then it just kind of peters out. So, I've been enjoying having that good feeling that I'm making great stories now.
So let's say there's a person starting on YouTube or on the same path as you. What's a piece of advice you give them knowing what you know now?
I would say one of the things is for me, at least for the type of channel I've done, I started off with like really large projects that I was doing. And I think that was leading to the overwhelmingness of how long it was taking to edit a video. And oh my gosh, tons of footage that I was just having to go through to edit as well. And I would recommend just start with something small. Just, it doesn't have to be anything huge. Just pick a small story in your life and start making your video footage around it and you're telling your story. And then you can slowly grow into those bigger, larger concepts that everybody wants to be known for making.
Christopher, thank you so much for your time. Again, it was great chatting with you. Super fun watching you implement a lot of your things. And again, congratulations on 1,000 subscribers. Super fun. So all the best and take care.
Hey, thanks a lot. Take care.
I love what Christopher said about just starting with something small when it comes to experimenting or pushing yourself in your skill set. Start with a small story, build from there. It really is about growing the muscles when it comes to these skills on YouTube. And if you're somebody who's looking for some encouragement along the way when it comes to these sorts of skills and muscles you're trying to grow, we'd love to come alongside you and really hear your story and help you along with that journey as well too. So I invite you to go to videocreators.com/discovery call and book a 15-minute session there so we can chat with you. I hear really often, actually early on in my journey, the idea of all it takes is one video to really blow up your channel. And the more I work with creators, the more I learn about YouTube, the more I realize that's probably not the best approach. What do you guys feel are some viral video myths about YouTube?
Yeah, I've kind of heard the same thing. And it's not like, if you get a video that gets a lot of views, it's not a bad thing. You can totally celebrate that. It's great. But I think if that's kind of the goal in mind of we're just going to try to get the one hit that just goes really far and then everything will be sunshine and rainbows after that point, they may be disappointed to see. And we've had, I'm sure both of you have worked with lots of creators like I have who've come to us and said, yeah, I had this video that went viral a year ago and it brought in all of the wrong people. It's not even really the direction of the channel that I want to be taking. So it's all the wrong audience. And that can actually be a massive headache. So, that there's obviously nuance there. That's just one example. But I think just to say it's not always this amazing dream to be chasing after to have that happen, because there can be downsides to that as well.
I think that it's totally true. And I have heard that story over and over and over again with creators. But one of the myths really is, the viral video, it guarantees you success. Well, first off, it's just one video. You got to do it again. Then you got to do it again. And then you got to do it again. And that is a really hard hamster wheel to stay on. So people who are constantly creating for virality end up burning out. Because it's just, sure, can we give you a formula for that? Absolutely. But you cannot, first off, it takes a lot to do that. And you cannot keep that pace up. I don't know a single creator that can.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with that. I guess with that in mind, what are some of the downsides when it comes to a viral video on your channel?
I think it just creates a lot of inconsistency. You know, we're in here looking at data all the time, and sometimes we like to jump in and look at kind of like the last 365 days. Just look at the last year. Like, what if we're looking at views or subscribers or kind of however we want to sort it? Like, are we noticing kind of a steady wave that's hopefully building up, or are we seeing these massive like spikes up and down? I think a lot of times where we see these massive spikes of a viral video, there's usually a pretty massive drop off right after that as well. So I think as far as kind of like audience engagement, it's more, you know, if we get the one big video, it doesn't necessarily mean that the rest of our content is going to perform the same. And it's not to say that it can't have a positive effect, because, you know, that saying, what is it? Rising tides raise all ships. You know, there can definitely be an opportunity when one video goes far to capitalize on that. And some of our other videos can also be lifted up from a win in that sense. But as far as kind of a long-term plan and moving forward, you know, if we're trying to replicate that video over and over and over, I think it's kind of what Ingrid, what you had said, it kind of becomes this hamster wheel where we get obsessed with, well, we just have to recreate that, which can be harmful.
Yeah, totally. And a lot of people will be like, well, you know, what did I do right in that video? And let me just reproduce that, right? Let me replicate that formula. It's a lot easier said than done, quite honestly. But it is interesting because one of the things that you were talking about, you know, rising tide lifts all ships. This is a pattern I've seen over so many creators' channels. And you can actually see this without needing to be in their back end. Now, I also have the luxury of being in a lot of different client backends. So I've been able to truly confirm and see this. But if you look at a lot of other creators where they've had one big hit, generally there's a second. It's just a pattern I've noticed over the years of analyzing channels. They usually come in pairs. Now, I have a theory around that. My theory is that generally when you're creating something, you're like in a mindset, right? You're in a zone. And generally when you're creating the videos to the left or the right of that, you know, that's not surprising that a couple connect, right, really well. They hit the same audience and YouTube is serving one up, and they recognize that when everybody watches this one, they like this one too. It does the same thing. So it's not surprising that two rise together, and that can really have a really big lift to the channel. But everything that comes up also comes down. All right. And the danger or the downside of really just focusing on a couple viral videos, when one of them stops performing long term, that's usually when they come talk to us, because it's like, my channel is in a decline. No, you just had one or two videos that just stopped performing. We need to focus on a better strategy, right? Which is why we're here in this conversation today.
Yeah, I think also as well, the idea of trying to recreate those videos, you get into a tangent that sometimes may not be the direction you want to go with your channel. It could be something you're trying to pursue for the sake of the views. You know, like the story I think that Tim shares of the creator who was mailing himself, was it in a box the entire time? It's the same idea. It was chasing what worked, but it ended up having him lose his love for YouTube because of that. So it can very easily pull you left field when you're trying to run straight down the road.
We have a lot of creators that we've worked with that had and this can also be because of seasonality. Okay. During COVID, a lot of people were watching YouTube. A lot of people had big hits because a lot of people were watching YouTube. Okay. Same thing can happen at Christmas time or at the New Year, you know, or it could be in the summer because people are out of school. And just because something goes big during a season doesn't mean that you can replicate that long term. Maybe people's watching patterns have shifted on YouTube, right? So you need to adjust and shift with that as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, you know, a lot of this, it really can have kind of an emotional, mental impact as well. I think when you're chasing that and either it's not working or you're experiencing some of that, it can be really frustrating as a creator. You imposter syndrome starts to creep in. I think there's a bit of a pressure too, to have to recreate, well, this one got this many views, and if the next time I try it, I can't get that many views again, I'm a failure, or I can't, I peaked. There's no way that I can achieve that. And we talked in a past podcast, Ingrid, you were talking about where's the emphasis? Are you focusing on yourself? Is it inward or is it outward, trying to serve your audience well? And I feel like that's such a good reminder, because even with something like this, if we're thinking in that way and it's really affecting us, a lot of times it's because there's such an inward, I just can't achieve that again, where that's not so much the case. It's just more of, if we're going to reflect that outward and focus on the audience that we're trying to serve, and not so much have this inward, kind of introspection all the time, that can also help kind of avoid that trap.
I feel like also something that goes along with that is sometimes we fall into the trap of creating around a particular topic, or we have one thing and then we just assume that that's what everybody wants to watch. And like you guys were talking about, you pigeonhole yourself into this little corner, and it's not even something you're passionate about. So what are the repercussions of that? You're bringing in probably the wrong audience, right? You're not having fun. You're constantly stressed because you feel like you're on a hamster wheel and you have to live up to the same results. So what would you do if this was your client? What would the two of you recommend?
I would say, we talk about the 3 bucket strategy a lot. We have discoverable videos designed to go far. We've got community videos for our audience, growing the know, like, and trust factor. We have sales videos to make a transaction. So I would probably start there and talk about maybe what does that look like. But even to get a little bit deeper, I like to also think of, if we're going to stick with the buckets analogy, like how many topic buckets do we have? If we have one topic bucket and it's just the one topic that went viral, that's the hamster wheel. We're just making the same video over and over and over, and you're going to get sick of it. Your audience is going to get sick of it, and it's a recipe for failure. And so I think also looking at what different types of topic buckets do I have, or can I have? How can I look through that filter of target audience, value proposition? How can I nail these things and check those boxes, and what does it look like to have different formats, different types of content? And so, because it can be okay to maybe recreate the video that went viral, a year later or something like that. Ingrid, what you were saying, as far as maybe it's a seasonal thing or a topical thing, maybe winter next year is an opportunity to recreate that viral Christmas video that you made. But then what's going to sustain you through the rest of the year? What are some other topic buckets you could potentially have? That's probably where I would start with a client.
I think also keeping in mind the idea of the three bucket strategy. There's nothing wrong with having a viral video. Getting a video with a ton of views is great, in a sense of okay, I'm doing what I'm trying to set it to do, which is to be discovered. But then taking a step back and saying, okay, at the same time, I know I have other jobs to accomplish when it comes to building my community in that sense too. So there's other content I can create that is trying to cultivate the right people, rather than trying to worry about the 500,000 people that watch this video. I want to engage the people that actually want to stick around. So looking at that as a win, but realizing that it's not the end all be all, that there's other things I need to do in the background to make sure I can keep that snowball growth that I'm looking for, that's ideal for my channel.
When you have something that goes viral, what would you guys recommend a creator leans into?
I would celebrate. I would sell it. Maybe that sounds backwards to what we're talking about, but it's important to celebrate when wins happen. And again, it's not a bad thing to get a video that gets a lot of views. So I would encourage, be excited. That's great. That's awesome. I would probably say, from here, how can we kind of maximize this opportunity right now? Like Ingrid, you were saying, it comes in pairs. Don't make the exact same video, but what's the natural part 2, or what would somebody want to watch next after this video that just went viral? How could we maybe try to capitalize some of that success? I would start thinking through our call to actions. Let's get tactical within the video itself. How can we point traffic from one video to another to hopefully help level out and create some more sustained growth rather than just the one massive spike and then they have nowhere to go after that. And then everybody just leaves and then it just dies. Those would be a couple things I'd probably want to start with.
Yeah, I think jumping in, I would go start doing community content. I have people who are now finding me, my content's being surfaced. I want to get myself out there and give them a reason to come back. Because again, people will come to your channel for the information or the entertainment, but they'll come back because of you in the long run. And now this is my chance to capitalize that and really get myself out there, make myself known, vulnerable, be open, allow for them to get to know who I am so that they want to re-engage with more content in the future.
Yeah, I love that. Both points. And I feel like when you do have something that does go farther, that's the time to really lean in. One of the mistakes I see a lot of creators make is they'll pull back and then they'll get stuck in analysis paralysis. They'll be excited because they have all the views coming in and they have more subscribers coming in, but they don't act. And that's a mistake because when this happens, it doesn't happen all the time. But unless you have like a team that is they're just all YouTube professionals and they know how to do this over and over again. But what I would do is I would really lean into both of the strategies actually that both Sam and Blake said. You know, what is that video 2? What does that look like? Maybe there's a continuation, and really leaning into maybe sending them down a spider web, you know, of other content to create that bingeable session, because those are right. You've been listening to the podcast, we hope now, for a while. You know that this is an Alfie day. All right. This is my named algorithm.
Wow.
Alfie on a good day. This is a good day, right? We have a viral hit. So Alfie wants to know, what are those other videos that you have created that bingeable session for? That's such a healthy viewer signal. And if you can even, like Blake said, tack in a community content video, that would be interesting. Growing the know, like, and trust factor amongst all these discoverable type videos where you're bringing in all these potential new subscribers, new community members to you. This is where you lean into primal branding. Primal branding is the primal code. This is something that Patrick Hanlon created. There's a book about it. We'll link that in the description and the show notes for sure. But lean into what makes you uniquely you so that you can create, you know, that connection with your audience. Because if you have this momentum, capitalize on it for sure.
I'm a big fan when I see a video that blows up and goes really far. When they have created a behind the scenes of X video or behind the scenes of my studio or
like those
whatever like that,
yeah,
I immediately click on those because that is where the primal branding happens, the relatability happens. And
it's a great idea.
You really get to connect with the creator in those moments too. So if somebody needed maybe a tangible example of what a community piece could maybe be to make after a video goes really far, maybe something like that could be a good start.
Yeah, because we're really talking about snowballing the growth, right? A little bit here. But what are some of the things that you don't want to do? Maybe departure from the content, right? This is not the time to fully experiment. Yeah.
Or even departure from who you're making the videos for. Mm-hmm. Good point. That's a thought too. If it's, this is where it gets tough, because if you have a good idea of who your target audience is and you have a video that does not line up with that audience and it goes super, super far, that puts you in kind of a tough spot, because then it's kind of the question of, you know, it's that causation versus correlation question. Mm-hmm. Do I want to continue down that path and like pivot my whole channel? It's up to you. Is that just the wrong type of person and we don't want that type of traffic? I would probably depart from that type of video, or maybe ask yourself, what are some lessons that I can pull from this video that is maybe leading to why it went so far? And then how could I repurpose that and take those lessons to apply to a new video that is actually for the right audience?
So what are some things you guys think we should focus on instead of trying to chase a viral video to make our growth more sustainable on the platform?
We've talked about community content a couple times, so not to be a broken record, but I think of community content as kind of like, have you guys heard that term, like rising bottoms? when we hit these high highs with very discoverable videos that go far, but like when it comes down, ideally our bottoms, our lowest lows are raising over time. So when I think of community content, I don't think of videos that are going to go reach these new high peaks that are going to go super far, but I see those as raising my lows, if that makes sense. So that can be a really helpful tool when it comes to consistency, especially if you have a good blend of the two of those for kind of your overall content strategy, because then you have some videos that are designed to go broad, go high, and reach, your peaks are rising with those. But then you have your community videos over here that ideally are raising your baseline higher and higher. And that will help kind of push your channel upward long terms, and not just these big spikes up and down, but the down remains the same every time.
Yeah. The cool thing about having a viral video is generally your baseline is usually a little bit higher. Which is kind of like what Sam was just talking about. The low of it will be a little higher than it was previously. Then going forward, it's just a matter of creating consistent content, consistent, valuable content that always goes back to your target audience, right? YouTube is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And this is a time to really kind of also remember to step back a little and not be so laser focused. What's the big picture here? What is it that we're really going after? Remembering what the goals are, keeping that in check as well. Really honing in on what your audience struggles with and just continually putting out that gift of content to them. Those are kind of some of the things that I think of.
I think being grounded in yourself as a creator as well too. Again, the tendency, if a video does well, or you see a video on a channel that does well, chase almost everything, replicate it in that sense, whether it be your demeanor, the way, your tone of your voice, but remaining true to who you are. Again, because if I try to be something I'm not for the sake of the views, not only can your audience feel it eventually, I will feel it eventually, to the point where I'll be tired of trying to be a big, loud version of myself that's not who I am. And that's not sustainable for anybody to kind of, not being who you are is very hard for anybody to sustain. I think that's the most difficult thing. So worrying about who you are, what you can control, the voice that you have, your unique voice, your unique editing, your unique style, topics, being aware of your authenticity will really be what helps you take what happened in that viral video and move forward with it in the direction of your channel. Remember, this is in the timeline of your channel. This is a blip that we're utilizing, but there's still more to come that we have to keep remembering to kind of play with along the way.
Yeah, and I feel like if you don't, then there's massive impact on creator mental health and burnout. Analysis paralysis will set in if you really don't look at it from the right perspective. You could very easily lose the passion and lose the why you're doing it in the first place. And you could very easily start chasing the wrong thing and ultimately really hating the direction that you're going in.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as well too, the idea of a viral video, I've heard from clients as well, is they'll have a video doing really well on their channel and they're constantly worrying about that video stopping its performance. And that's not a healthy thing to have. They'll be in bed thinking about, what if this video stops tomorrow? It's that's not a healthy mindset to have. It's let this video do what it needs to do. If it slows down, it slows down. Cool. It served its purpose for this time. Let's move forward with the videos that I have planned that I can make to take that and utilize the success from that video.
I love how you put that because I got news for you. Videos have a shelf life. At some point, they're going to probably stop performing. And that could be because of a lot of different reasons, right? It could be just because times have changed. It could also be because somebody made it better, and newer. It happens. what goes up comes down eventually. So it really goes back to having a strategy, right, guys? Having a solid strategy of how do we develop, and I'm going to take this all the way back to where Sam was talking about having the different buckets, not just the 3 buckets of content, but your topic buckets, dipping your toe into several. Maybe you have a video that crosses buckets. It fills, bucket 1, 2, and 7. I recommend to creators all the time to have up to 7 different topics that they dip their toe into. And it doesn't have to be 7, but there's no set magical number. So don't hear that. But I think that that's healthy too, just from creator burnout. I may get tired of talking about one thing over and over and over again. I mean, look at what we do here on the channel. Sometimes we talk about discoverability. Sometimes we talk about creator mental health. Sometimes we talk about storytelling. Sometimes we get very technical and we like to talk just about like titles and thumbnails or just about video structure or whatever the thing is. Maybe it's business is another bucket. You can see when you really start to break it out, we have lots of different buckets that we lean into consistently. Because guess what? We get tired of saying the same thing over and over too. We need to be stretched. I think the 3 of us had this conversation before recording these podcasts today, right?
Yeah.
Right.
What do you want to talk about?
100%.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A. Let's go. No, I'm just kidding.
Chick-fil-A and its impact on YouTube. And I think also as well, realizing there's other ways to be discovered on YouTube than just even a specific video. I try to encourage creators too, the idea of collaborating. There's other ways you can get your voice out there, find the right audience. Sometimes that can help, reaching the right people. So being open to the idea of, who else is in my sphere of, niche or connecting niches that, not exactly the same one, but things that make sense together, but reaching out to those and do a collaboration there. That way not only are you exposing yourself to other people, but potentially the right people, because it's now people who are part of a certain sphere of understanding that relates to yours, which to me is going to be more valuable sometimes than reaching 2 million people at that point.
Yeah. Well, I feel like there's like a mental thing that happens too, or an emotional thing that happens too, when you can collaborate and kind of have a partnership with another channel. I think it's really hard to be creating in a void just by yourself. So even to have another person who you have a relationship that you're building with too, can really help fuel you moving forward as well. So I think there's some real tangible success that you can have from sharing your audience and getting to have that collaboration opportunity. But I think even from a creation standpoint as well, or a creative standpoint, there's a lot that can really help kind of add some fuel to the fire as well, just with kind of having that connection with somebody else helping you in that way.
So a question for you, both of you, what are some things we can focus on rather than just trying to chase a viral video or views for a video?
Yeah, I feel like the views part of it too, or maybe even like the amount of subscribers you might get from a viral video, that is like the bar that sometimes we can set as far as, well, this is the goal. So for the next videos that I'm going to keep making, that's what I'm focusing on. Like, I'm not going to see success unless I hit that bar. But a lot of times the views and the subscribers gained is really a result of other things that have worked, because we know how the algorithm works. If you're nailing these viewer signals in your video, that's the reason it's going far. Like, let the algorithm do the job, do the heavy lifting. And so if we can set our focus on, for future videos, how can we recreate that and improve some of these areas that we have some more control over, rather than just the results, that can also help maybe set us up for success as we keep moving forward. Because Alfie is trying to do its job on a good day. Alfie is trying to surface your content to more people. So if we kind of let it do the heavy lifting and then focus on some of these things that we really can control, it definitely helps us in the long term.
Between the 3 of us, we have worked with a lot of creators. One of the patterns, when you think about it and you sort a creator's channel by most popular, what do those thumbnails generally look like?
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of times the thumbnails are more simple. There's not a lot happening in them. Sometimes they've kind of like tapped into a very known person or topic. Maybe it's a seasonal thing like we talked about. That's what I've seen.
Yeah, I think the one thing I see the most of is the simplicity of the thumbnails. I had a discovery call with a creator recently, and he could not figure out why his newer videos, like, well, his videos in general were not performing the way he was expecting or wanting to. And I went to his most popular video, and he's like, I don't understand why this video did well. First of all, the title was really intriguing, and the thumbnail was just a simple picture of what he was working on, but it was interesting to see. There was no words around it. It was just a picture of the object, but it was simple to look at, as opposed to the thumbnails he was creating, which had a lot more words, very tiny words, so it was already hard to read at a bigger scale. There was no visual story being told. 9 times out of 10 when I go to popular, it totally makes sense why the one video that's performing the best is performing the best. It makes total sense.
Yeah. And the other thing that I've also noticed in analyzing all these channels is they unintentionally told a story. And so when you really think about it and you think, but the thing that frustrates creators is like, I don't understand why I have hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of views on that. Or even if you're a brand new creator, 10,000 views might be like your viral hit. All right. Because you generally get under 100 views. So 10,000 would be a viral hit for you. Step back. This goes back to something I said earlier. Step back from the content. Analyze it. You know, don't think about the topic or why you made it or those types of things. Think about what's actually happening. I guarantee you told a story. Your title and your thumbnail are intriguing in a human way. Because that's the other pattern I've noticed is usually there's intrigue, but because they optimize for people and not robots. And so take it from us who have really had an opportunity to see a lot of viral content and break down why it succeeded. When you get in your head, you can really be the roadblock to unlocking bigger success. Don't do that to yourself. You know, focus on the marathon. Don't focus on the sprint. Break it down to a formula. What did you do right? Go back and listen to more of our podcasts. We talk a lot about video structure. We talk about storytelling. We talk about titles and thumbnails. But apply some of those key principles. Don't overthink it is really what I'm trying to say here. Right?
Yeah.
Because that's usually what happens.
You know, there's something really interesting actually that you just said that I wanted to unpack a little bit more when you were talking about designing the thumbnails and the intrigue factor being in a very human way.
Yeah.
There are times where you might have a viral video that is viral, not because you did that, but because it may have ranked really high, like on Google search or something like that. I just recently worked with a channel who they were experiencing just for like 1 or 2 of their recent videos, really high growth. And at first glance, it was like, oh, great, this is awesome. And so I just kind of did a little bit of digging. And I saw under the traffic sources, it was like 80% of the views came from external and it came from Google search. And the thing that kind of alerted me that threw me off was I was looking at their retention graphs and it was awful compared to what their regular ones look like. You know, after the first 15 seconds, they had lost like 80% of viewers. It was at under 10% for like the majority of the video. So it was really interesting and opened kind of an interesting conversation, which is why you can't really take some of these things at face value. If you get a video that gets a ton of views, and this kind of brings us back, like, is it helpful or harmful for your channel or neither? This was a good example of a video or two that weren't really far, but it wasn't bringing a valuable viewer in at all because they were coming from Google search. They were searching, I have this problem. How do I fix this thing? And a lot of people ended up on that video and skipped through the whole thing to find that one point, the 1 second in the video where they solved the problem. And they were like, great, awesome. I'm out. I'm going to go about my day now. So it was just interesting. It made me think of that when you said that, Ingrid, because yeah, a lot of times the high human intrigue is what gets like the right viewers here for us. And it is really powerful with getting a viral video or video just to go really far. But you can have opportunities like that too, or I wouldn't say opportunities, but you can have moments like that too, where you get a lot of views on a video from maybe a not valuable traffic source. And that can also happen. And it's not the most helpful thing for your channel.
Such a great point.
Yeah, I really think by shifting your focus away from viral videos and embracing sustainable growth strategies, you can achieve long-lasting success on the platform. By building a loyal audience, delivering consistent value, nurturing a strong community, staying adaptable. You not only have success on the platform, but you understand the right path for your success on the platform, and that's really what's going to be the most important. Every week, we love to leave you with a power tip, something new that YouTube is doing on the platform. And this week, I want to talk a bit about quizzes on your community tab. So over the next few weeks, YouTube is rolling out quizzes for the community tab on Android, iOS, and desktop. So it's a really great way for especially educational channels to engage with their audience when it comes to, I even think of like language channels that I've worked with. Really great way to test them on their knowledge in that sort of sense too. So really cool feature coming to the platform.
It's a powerful tool.
Thanks for listening to another Video Creators Podcast. We'll see you next week.